We start with figuring out what does health look like for me, physically, mentally, emotionally, and work really hard on being good at you.
Healthy mind, healthy body, healthy life. Soul Food on Smooth 98.1.
Love music, love life, love your health and your wellness. You're welcome to Soul Food on Smooth 98.1. And this is a part of the show where we talk about you, your health, your wellness. We want you to be in tip-top shape. Every aspect of you must be functioning well. And for that to happen, we know that you need accurate information. That's why we have these conversations every Saturday morning from 8 till 8:30 on Smooth 98.1. Breakfast in Bed is the name of the entire show, but this segment is known as Soul Food. We also have the avenues for you to be a part of the show in different ways. For instance, if you're in the city of Lagos and you have your radio set, it means that you can listen to us via the 98.1 frequency. However, if you're not in Lagos or you're not in Nigeria, you can always stream via the website or you search for Smooth 98.1 FM Lagos on any radio streaming app or website. Currently, we're live on YouTube, so you can go to our YouTube channel, which is at Smooth 91 FM Lagos. Again, at Smooth 91 FM Lagos. So that allows you to watch, be a part of it, and importantly, share with someone who's not with you at the moment. And then you can also go back to watch the conversation later on. It also means you can drop your questions, your comments, contributions, and everything that allows you to be a part of the show. Finally, we've got WhatsApp line and the call line. I'll be telling you about that later on. So we need to get into the fray of things and talk about stress, something that seems inevitable as humans, but how do we manage it? How do we keep it in healthy doses if we have healthy doses of stress? And as my guest this morning, I have someone who talks about this so much, educates people and helps you to get out of that pit of stress that you might have gotten into as a result of ignorance or just lack of information or inadequate information or even wrong information. So she is a stress and wellness coach, and she is Dr. Ezinne Nnamdi Lewis. Good morning.
Good morning, Oluwaseun. It's lovely to be here.
Thank you for joining me all the way from the Europe. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, that's all right.
Okay, so let's get into the definition of stress. How a person will define stress might not be how you would define it as a professional. So what comes to your mind when you think about stress, or how do you explain it to people what stress is?
So when it comes to stress, I try not to bother people with any highfalutin definition. I just try to keep it as simple as possible. So if you're thinking about stress, just think about it as the way you respond to a huge demand or a perceived threat. So that's just what it is, simply. So stress is more about your own response, your own reaction, more than what exactly happened to you. That is why we all respond differently to stress, even if we are exposed to the same amount of pressure or the same amount of situations. So it's more about your reaction. That is what stress is basically is.
That is an interesting look to it. So two people can go through the same situations. One will be stressed and another person will not be.
Exactly. And that's why I tell people, for instance, in your work colleagues, if they tell you something like, hey, I'm stressed, or, oh, this workload is too much, first of all, listen to them. That's not the time you're going to tell them, your own is even smaller. You get because people respond differently to even the same amount of things going on in their lives.
So are there biological factors that make people respond differently to stress, or is just mental, or is it mindset, or what are the things that contribute to how people respond differently to stress?
So all the things you've mentioned, actually part of it. So one of them is age.
Oh.
So, yeah, age. When I talk about age, I'm looking at it from a perspective of if someone has so many life experiences age-wise, they are better prepared to cope with huge demand, with increased pressure, or On the other hand, if someone is advanced in age and has become frail, you don't expect them to cope so much with huge demand because it will make them feel worse. Another thing is the person's pre-existing health, okay? Whether it's mental health or whether it's physical health. If I already have back pain and you bring me to a workplace where I should be lifting stuff, it won't be long before I tell you, oh, no, this one is too much for me. Whereas somebody else that doesn't have any pre-existing back pain can handle that same job without complaining, okay? Or someone that already has risk of depression, or someone that has been suicidal before, if you expose them to huge mental torture, it will also increase the risk of going through that same stuff again. So they won't be able to cope compared to somebody that hasn't had this kind of history before. Okay, so and then another thing you may want to look at is your social support. So if I come from a background where I have people around me, I have family, I have friends, I have someone I can easily call to seek advice or just to talk about how my day is going, I'll be better. I'll be better positioned to cope with adverse situations compared to someone that is going through it alone. So these are just various factors that can influence how people respond to various stresses.
Interesting. Now, in the midst of all this, is there a space anywhere for what is called as healthy stress?
It's actually controversial.
Yeah.
Yeah, some people believe there's no amount of stress that is healthy. And some people are like, oh, there are some amount of stress that is healthy, what you call the eustress. But forget about the term. So the way I see stress is so long as we've chosen to be responsible in life, you're going to encounter some amount of stress. Okay. So this means something like, okay, because I've chosen to contribute to the society, to work hard, to make ends meet, that means I'm going to encounter stress in doing all of these. And now that amount of stress that I encounter is what helps me to get by each day. More like it's essential for my productivity. So for instance, if I have an exam coming up now and I remember I've not read anything. That's some amount of stress. And my body is going to respond, hey, you have a huge demand here that you need to take care of. And by that going on, I'll realize maybe my heart starts beating faster, I'll start breathing faster, blood flows more to my muscles, I get more alert, even if I was sleepy before. So these are all stress responses that just prepare me to be productive at that time. So in this situation, I'll call it healthy dose of stress. Yes.
Okay. Now, is it possible for your body to be responding to stress in a negative way and you are not even aware of it until someone points it out?
Oh man. Of course. And you know the interesting thing, we are from a background, of course I'm Nigerian. We are from a background where if you mention that you're stressed, most people won't take you seriously because we've familiarized ourselves with stress to the point that we think it's a normal thing. I mean, too much stress anyway. And to the point that we think it's a normal thing, to the point that we don't recognize when things are going wrong until things have gone really bad. Now, what I do is I try to increase that awareness on the dangers of stress overload. Okay. And stress overload is something that is common, not just specific to us Nigerians, as in it's common all over. Whenever I'm talking about stress anywhere, you see people from different walks of life relating to it. Okay. Because probably they didn't really realize that this is what stress is doing to them. But it's all the same responses everyone is getting, like according to their body anyway. So stress can be really, really dangerous if you don't listen to your body. If you don't recognize the symptoms your body is communicating to you, which is very important. Understanding what your body is communicating per time is what makes the difference between how you cope and how the other person copes. Yes, people can go through these symptoms without even realizing that this is what's going on with them.
Now, let's talk about those symptoms.
Yeah.
Those warning signs that once you start to see now as a result of the education you're giving to us, we want to pay attention. So what are those things that once you start seeing them, you know that there is trouble in the offing?
Yeah. So there are actually several of them, like many of them. Like if I ask you now, how do you feel when you're stressed? I know that I'm not asking you at the moment. Like if I ask so many people, some people are going to tell me that, oh, I get lots of headaches. Oh, I get tired. I get irritable. I get dizzy. You know, these are the common stuff, but there are actually a lot more. And let me start. Let me do it from head to toe as much as we can do it. Yeah. So let's start from the head or from the mind, whichever one comes first. You have things like dizziness. Okay, I've had people call me up on the phone, or that's patients. Oh, doctor, I feel dizzy. I can't explain this one. And then when they come in, when I bring them in, I check everything, do the blood test, check blood pressure, everything is fine. And I know stress is playing a role somewhere here. And then some people is headache. Now, if you're getting headache, I don't want you to think, okay, because doctor said yeah, it's because of stress. Now it's stress. If you are getting the worst headache of your life, please don't just ignore it. This is something that you need to speak to. So you need to speak to a doctor about, because there are different types of headache anyway. Just to what I'm just trying to do is to just let you know that stress can also contribute to the chronic headaches you're getting, even worsening migraines. It could be stress as the underlying factor. And then another thing is irritable. Now, if you grew up in an African home, you realize times when maybe your mom or your dad comes back from work and then he sees an orange peel on the floor and maybe somebody forgot to pick it up. And the next thing happens is that he starts screaming, "Who did this? Why did you do that?" Or something like the food is finishing in the house. "What are you people doing? Why are you eating so much?" When you look at all these things in hindsight, it's not just, I'm sorry, just give me a second. So when you look at these things in hindsight, it's not just because of the orange peel that was dropped on the floor or because the food is finishing. All of this could stem from the amount of stress they've accumulated during the day. Okay. And that's why at the end of the day, you start hearing things like, oh, my dad is always angry, or my mom is always upset, irritable. These things are usually stress responses that they won't tell you about. Okay, so irritability is one of them. And another one is forgetting things easily. Maybe you just forget, oh, where did I drop down my key? Oh, where did I drop my pen? These simple things. It means that your brain is not focusing well enough to remember things as you should, or concentration issues. These are kind of issues that can happen, okay? And then let's leave the head out of the mind right now and then calm down. One thing I'm going to let everyone know is that if you start getting issues with your heart, especially if you get chest pain, please get to the hospital immediately. Okay, so one thing that stress does is that it increases risk of having certain heart diseases, of having heart attacks, of having stroke. People that have blood pressure, it will be difficult to manage. It can worsen ulcers. It can make it difficult to manage your blood sugars. These are the kind of things that stress will do to you. You're taking all the blood pressure, you're taking all the right medications, but you're not seeing results. How is your stress level? Some people just get stomach pains that they just can't explain. And it's probably due to chronic stress that they're accumulating. Okay. And then other things that can happen is you're feeling always tired, always drained out. Why is that? How is your stress level? Okay. And then other things. Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
It's fine.
Okay, good job. So other things that may happen is I lost my train of thoughts for a moment there. So I've talked about the heart.
The heart, yes, the head as well as the mind.
Getting tired, feeling weak. I think let's just.
What about your guts? What
Yeah.
happens? Does it affect your digestive system, how your body processes and receives nutrients, food, and so
Yes.
on?
And talking about that, there are some people that respond to stress by eating a lot.
Yeah.
And there are some people, on the other hand, that respond to stress by eating less. Probably they don't even remember to eat food. Okay. So, whichever way, stress could be contributing to this, making it difficult to achieve your weight loss targets. Because when you are stressed, what your body actually needs are essential nutrients that it's losing. But then your brain starts craving for the sugary things, craving for the chocolates, the ice creams, the donuts, the milky donuts and stuff. And then when you take them, it's like comfort food. It's like, oh, this is my reward for the stress, you know.
Hmm.
And one more thing I have to mention quickly in the science of stress is loss of libido or premature ejaculation. That's everything that is related to sex, poor sex. Okay, so this is something that can affect families. And then you're wondering, is my spouse cheating on me? It just could be stress. And they couldn't communicate it to you. Unless you understand this is what they're going through, that's when you probably understand without accusing them of cheating on you. So these are the kind of things that stress can do to people.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
If you're joining us for the first time, we are talking about stress, and we've highlighted the definition of stress. Our guest told us that stress really has to do with your response to whatever it is that you're going through. So stress really is dependent on your response and how you choose to respond to a number of things. And we've talked about the things that can determine a person's response from their biological makeup. Age is important. Age is one thing that contributes, and so on. And then we are talking about some of the symptoms of stress, and she has highlighted quite a number of them. So from your head, if you're dizzy, you feel like you're having repeated headaches, yep, then you need to check it. And maybe you're taking medications and it seems not to be effective. You might need to check your level of stress. Then chest pain also is one of the things she highlighted. Then your digestive system slash how much of food you take or how little of it you take based on one thing or the other that you're experiencing. She mentioned irritability. You might get really cranky and your tolerance level, your patience level is just down. That any little thing, down to how a person, you might just be in a place and somebody's chewing and you feel like, why are you chewing that
Exactly.
way? I have been there. Yeah, like, can you
Exactly.
not chew that way? What's wrong with you? And finally, she mentioned your well, I wouldn't say fertility, your sex drive and libido
Yeah.
and so on. That also could be affected based on the level of stress you're going through. Okay, I'm curious. Can you sleep your stress away?
Um, Interestingly, sleep is very essential when you're trying to manage your stress. But about sleeping it away, it's part of the management. That's the way I'll say it. And then again, it depends on the cause of the stress. When you're also talking about the symptoms that people experience, you can realize that some people struggle with their sleep. And then if you don't sleep well, it further worsens the stress. So it's like a cycle, you know. So sleeping stress away just depends on, is the stress due to you've not been sleeping well or due to you just need some rest. But if it's due to other things, probably you won't just sleep it away. But it is very, very essential in preventing the stress from escalating further.
How does an individual identify their stressors? There are times you feel a certain way. You know you're stressed, but you can't just place your hand on what
Yes.
is wrong. How do you identify your stressors?
So this is where self-awareness comes in. Okay. I've had chats with people, just like you mentioned. I've had chats with people that didn't really realize that this is the source of their stress. For instance, I had a lady that spoke to me one time. She was talking about one thing, but then when we dug deeper, we realized that it's actually how her husband reacts or responds to her not giving her the kind of love she wanted. That was actually at the root cause of her stress. So what I tell people to do is, if you can journal for the next 2 weeks. Okay. So what you're going to do is think about, let me say at the end of the day, think about what happened or a significant event that happened. And then write down what triggered that event and then write down how you responded to that event. Okay, so if you can do this consistently for 1 to 2 weeks, most times you realize a pattern. And the pattern could be maybe how you interpreted that event, or the kind of thoughts you had when that event happened. Okay. And then if journaling is not really your thing, you can engage somebody else to speak to the person to help you. Because one thing that happens when we are talking is that it helps us to process things better than when we are just doing it ourselves. So you can engage someone to help you get to the root cause of why you feel the way you do.
Thank you. If you have any question at this point or you have a contribution, it's okay for you to send your messages in. And WhatsApp line is 0809 444 0981. Again, 0809 444 0981. While the call line is 0201 448 9981. Again, 0201 448 9981. And you can also join us on YouTube. That is at Smooth 91 FM Lagos. Again, at Smooth 91 FM Lagos. We'll be right back. Okay, so we are almost at the end. Time flies real fast. So when we come back, we'll talk about stress prevention. How do you prevent stress? How do you use cites from afar and say, no space here? And then we talk about the management. Before we get to the management, we talk about complications so that people are aware that this thing, don't just go on thinking, hey, it's okay, it's part of life. What happens when you do not manage your stress? And from there, we talk about the management.
That's fine. I'm sorry my kids came in at some point.
It's okay. You're listening to Soul Food on Smooth 98.1. We love music. We love life. We love you, healthy and whole. And that's why we're having conversations like this one on Soul Food from 8 till 8:30 every Saturday morning. Today, we are talking about stress. Have you been stressed lately, or you've been stressed for the longest time? Chronic stress, I believe. So how are you dealing with it? How are you managing it? And you can let us know what's on your mind by sending a message to WhatsApp 0809 444 0981. Again, 0809 444 0981. And please include your name, especially if you're sending a message for the first time. My guest is a stress and wellness coach, and she is Dr. Ezinne. Okay, so on WhatsApp, Lydia says, good morning, Oluwaseun. Happy World Peace Day to everyone. Not sure I joined in early enough, but so far I'd say I am stressed though. I'm so stressed. I won't even lie, but how I get through it, I believe in God for things to add up on a daily. I keep pushing. I listen to music a lot because it helps me. Take short walks, embrace gratitude, remind myself that all will be well, and spend quality time having interesting conversations with my 6-year-old daughter. Okay. The one that loves me so much. Oh, okay. Thank you, my love to her. And you said, I am Lydia. Have a stress-free day ahead. And you too, Lydia. Thank you for your contribution. Another message from Chima says, I think forgetfulness, concentration issues, and eating sound irritability are on the side of ADHD, from what I know, though. Is that correct?
So symptoms overlap, okay, in certain health conditions. But because I'm talking about stress, this can also happen when you're stressed.
All right, thank you. Okay, so moving on now. I was going to ask you something, but I remember. Because you mentioned it when we started the conversation, when people finally open up, or maybe they think they really are stressed and they open up to people, What are some of the do's and don'ts when you are speaking to them or responding to them? What are some of the things you should say to them and should not say to them?
I like this question a lot because we are not familiar with how to have such conversations. So one of the things you should not do is to use the opportunity to talk about how your own situation is worse, thereby invalidating how they feel. Because once you give someone that kind of impression, they will not come to you next time. They'll go to someone else. So one of the essential things is listening with empathy. Okay. Empathy is more like, I feel your pain, your pain in my shoes. I feel everything. I may not have the solution to it, but I get it. Okay. So listening is the most important thing when someone is talking to you. And I'm not talking about listening to have your own opinion or talk about or bring up something else or disregard what they are saying. For instance, if I tell you something like, oh, my workplace, my boss is really dealing with me, I don't expect you to start telling me, it's not the job. You just I beg, I beg, I beg. Are you the only one that is feeling that kind of way? Are you the only one that have a irritable boss? No, no, no. First, listen to me. I just want you to listen. I can talk as long as I want because at the end of the day, I'll feel better than when I haven't said anything to you. So if you just listen to me, even without giving a contribution or bringing a solution, I am fine. So that's very important. Listen to understand, listen with empathy, not just to listen for listening's sake. So
Or in these times that everything seems to be going off the roof. So someone comes and tells you how much they spent when they went to the market because of inflation, and you say, if you know what I spent when I went to the
yeah,
market, things
exactly.
like that.
Your own is even
Comparison.
small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's talk about preventing stress. How do you see your stress from afar? Don't come near me.
Preventing stress, I see it as a way of building resilience to stress actually. Okay. You don't usually hear things like, oh, prevent that stress because we see it as stress is part of your day-to-day life. But I see it from the angle of these are things you can do to build resilience to be able to cope. Okay. And one of the things is self-awareness, which we already talked about, and figuring out what are your triggers and how you respond, and then what can you do differently subsequently so that the response won't be drastic as you did the last time. And then another thing is scheduling your rest. I call it SIR, SISIR, scheduled intermittent rest. So we have this culture of working till your body says I can't walk anymore. But if you're able to schedule your rest, I know there are people that feel guilty when they rest. There are people that think rest is counterproductive. Actually, rest is part of your productivity. I don't know if we have time. I would have shared my own personal story. In fact, let me just do it quickly. So
Yes, please.
during my NYSC several years ago, I was working. I'm a medical doctor. I was working. I was learning how to sew. I was learning, and okay, I was also preparing for an exam. Okay, in addition to giving attention to my family. So I had so many things going on for me. And I was someone that used to take pride in work. Like if you tell me to rest, I'll tell you things like, you don't even know the kind of things I do in my 24 hours. I do this, I do that. As in, it gave me this sense of pride. And before I knew it, I realized something that in my study group for my exams, they were calling me out for not being so active. In my sewing classes, I realized that my finishing weren't neat. And then my job, okay, that one I had to give it attention, else I'll be fired. And then I realized that I barely had time to cook my food. I barely had time to sleep. So I would work around the clock till I get tired and sleep off. And then I'll wake up and continue the cycle again, Monday to Sunday. So it wasn't long before I went to the hospital because I was feeling really, really bad. When you feel like you have malaria, all those symptoms, malaria and stuff. So I went to the hospital and they did all the tests, necessary tests. Everything was fine. So I was given drip, I was given infusion that day, and I was sent home. It took me time to recover. Okay. So that time it took me to recover, I lost productive hours. Okay. But that was when I had that self-reflection that, hey, Ezinne, you can't continue like this. You don't take pride in being a workaholic. So I had to incorporate a rest day in between in my week, and that was on Wednesdays. I was like, on Wednesdays, I am doing absolutely nothing. This is my rest day, Wednesday and Sunday. And before I knew it, I was more active in my study group. My finishing in the sewing class was more satisfactory. I was seeing positive results. That made me realize that rest is actually highly productive. So incorporate rest in what you do, and you see yourself being more productive. If you're a parent, you're being more present in the lives of your kids. You're not being that angry mom or angry, irritable dad. You're not being that moody colleague. Every time they're seeing your face is strong. Just incorporate rest in the things you do, and you see yourself being someone that people want to be around. That's on scheduled rest. Yeah. Let me
Go
just
on, please, because I was going to ask for more on how to deal with and manage stress. You've told us about rest.
Yeah. And then should I still be talking about prevention, or should I go to managing your stress? Well,
Management.
yeah, management. Let's talk about management. So when you talk about managing your stress, the big question I ask people, because I'm not going to tell you take rest, go on walks. These are things you already know. You listen to Lydia and she talked about the things she does already. So people already know what to do most times in managing their stress. But the question I ask people is, why do you want to manage your stress? Until you answer this question, that is when you take it seriously. You know that you need rest. You know that you need to take a break. Why do you need to do that? You know, are you aware of the risk? Are you aware of the dangers if you don't do that? What is your motivation? So if you're able to find your motivation, for instance, I conducted a corporate training on Monday, and when I asked the men usually find it difficult to talk. When I asked the men, why do you want to manage your stress? And we looked at different things. One of them seemed so shocked when he realized that he needed to do this for his family, for the people he loved. He needed to be alive for his kids. When he was able to attach his reason for managing stress to being present in the lives of his kids, he was more excited to take steps or to take actions in managing his stress. So, what is your motivation? And then, if it's the source of your stress because you have a huge demand, is it something you can prioritize your life? Is it something you can cut out unnecessary things? Is it something you can establish boundaries and say no to certain things? Or does it have to do with you need to increase your resources, whether it's resources of finding another job or a better paying job, whether it's resources of getting someone to help you out with childcare, or is it coping with perceived threats? So these are kind of three categories when it comes to managing stress. Sometimes the cause of your stress is not actually there, but because you've gone into the future and saying that maybe the future is not bright, you start worrying about it today. This can be your source of stress. So does it have to do with a mindset change and thinking more positively? So there are certain things you can do to manage your stress depending on which category it falls into. First of all, what is your motivation? And then the second very important thing is accountability. Because some people who are workaholics, they will do the right things and then they slip back again. So just get someone that can help you, that can hold you accountable, that can remind you, hey, babe, you need to rest. You know.
Okay, that's why friends are very important. And before somebody goes ahead to think, especially the singles, you're wondering, well, I'm single, nobody will help me. You have friends, you have family, have
Yeah.
people in your life that will always look out for you. That's important. We're humans, we're social. We cannot exist in isolation. Iman from Lagos says, hello, Seun and Dr. Ezinne. How does stress cause iron deficiency in the blood? I experienced stress pro max during the lockdown. I was always tired. My skin began to itch and blisters broke out on my skin. around my fingers, arm and toes. I have never experienced such before. I began to rest and sleep more serious since then. Okay.
So when you talk about iron deficiency, there are causes of iron deficiency anemia. I won't say stress is a direct cause. Stress can contribute in the sense that when you're stressed, you're not eating the right things. Okay, so it could be from a nutritional perspective that will make you deficient in iron. So it can just be contributing, not like it's a direct cause. So that's what I'll be able to say. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Ezinne. We've come to the end of this one for today, but just a final tip, wrap up, or something you felt I need to iterate this for the sake of someone who's just listening or someone who has missed out on it when you were speaking about it earlier.
Yeah. So I'll say two things. Number one, please don't ignore the warning signs your body is giving you because it can be fatal. Don't ignore it. Immediately you recognize a change in your emotions, a change in the symptoms your body is giving you, any change that is not normal. Please take action immediately. And then the second thing I would say is stress management is a lifestyle. It's not a one-off thing where, oh, let me finally take that break and then you go back to the same cycle. No. In repeated exposures to chronic stress can cause really, really bad damage to your mental health, to your relationship, to your physical health, to your productivity, just name all of them, and even increase risk of death. So please make it a lifestyle.
Thank you. I hope at least one of these things was helpful for you as you listened. And I hope that you're going to take actions after the information that you have received, because like Dr. Ezinne said, many of the things she has mentioned, we know it. We have the consciousness of it, but we just don't translate it into action. So for these things you have heard, please make sure that you do something with it so that you can be healthier and you will be less stressed, if possible, not stressed at all. And if there are people in your life stressing you, boundaries. If you are stressing others, don't be angry when they also fence you out. Please be careful. Be kind to yourself and to others. Next week, we'll be back on Soul Food from 8 till 8:30 right here on Smooth 98.1. You can find Dr. Ezinne on social media. What's your handle?
Dr. Ezinne Namdeluis, mainly LinkedIn.
Oh, okay. All right. So you can find her there in case you want to ask her a question directly or you have something to tell her. Dr. Ezinne Namdeluis on all social media platforms, especially LinkedIn, she said.
Yeah.
All right. On the other side, it will be more music, great music, and smooth music because we love music and we love life. My name is Oluwaseun Olusegun.
And the rest will follow.
You start with figuring out what is the
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I enjoyed the conversation.
I wished it continued.
I know, right? We could have a second part of this later on. I would do an email then to know if you're free for it.
Let's see how it goes. Thank you.
Thank you. And
All right.
regards to your beautiful children.
So bad.